Good morning, everybody. This is James W. Falcon. Listen, I wanted to pop on and do a very brief recording. Um, this is audio only, by the way, so there's nothing wrong with your device. This is an audio only recording. And I hope that this will serve as the first of many that I want to do exclusively for those of you in the Why Not group. Why? Because we want to keep you motivated. We want to keep you encouraged. We want to keep you empowered and educated about the process, the benefits of goal pursuit, developing goals, pursuing goals, and attaining goals, meaning crossing the finish line to actually see your goals manifest and become reality. So, the founder and I, Laverna Saunders and I, along with our member of our advisory board, Teresa Angela, we put this whole thing together because we thought it was important to be able to swim upstream against some of the currently developing trends that have the potential to negatively impact everyone. You've seen the post. I won't go into detail about the trends and take time to do that on this particular recording, but we'll touch on that going forward. Look through the Facebook page and understand the trends. Go specifically to our mission, vision, and values, the one that says background, mission, vision, and value. You'll see all about the trends and what's happening and how detrimental they can be for. We all have been impacted by those trends in some shape, form, or fashion. So understand those and understand that this is why this group has come into being, is to swim upstream to combat the effects of those trends. However, those things aside, I want to talk to you today about a very important topic that is very important to keep in mind when you consider having goals, pursuing goals, and certainly attaining goals. And that is this whole topic of limiting beliefs. As a certified life coach, relationship coach, business and career coach, and all the other coaching niches that I am responsible for supporting my clients and doing through my coaching practice, I run across clients with limiting beliefs quite often. Let me first define them. My my very boots on the street definition of a limiting belief are conclusions that we draw that are convenient conclusions because they're not necessarily based in truth. They're just things that we have concluded conveniently because we haven't taken the time to find other more suitable, more viable conclusions. So we kind of find the first parking space we can and we pull our vehicle in there and then we jump out or we run into the building, kind of speak, if that makes sense to you as an analogy. It's not based in truth. Limiting beliefs are things that we think about. They're beliefs that are very real to us because they become a part of the fabric of who we are. And they certainly are an integral part of the fabric of our mental and emotional makeup. They are there. And you can't convince people with limiting beliefs that those things aren't true unless you take them through a coaching process, of which I happen to be experienced and acquainted, which is why I'm bringing aspects of this to you guys in this group because we care about your goal development, your goal pursuit, and your goal attainment process that much. That's why we're here. Limiting beliefs. Let me give you an example. I hope I did a great job in helping you to understand what they are. They're convenient conclusions that we draw because of whatever time and circumstances don't allow or prevent us from finding viable, realistic, more suitable conclusions. Let me give you a case in point. So in 2018, I had a full right brain stroke. It left me at the time paralyzed on my left side of my body, and I had to be in a rehab nursing home for about 6 months. It was one heck of an experience, as I'm sure you can imagine. A lot took place on a very mental, emotional, psychological, physical, and emotional level. It was a very trying time. It is to date the most trying thing that I've ever had to deal with. But I say that to give you the setup to say this. While I was in the nursing home, one of the things that I had to deal with, and this is probably one of my better examples of helping people understand limiting beliefs. I share this example with my coach clients all the time. So the idea was for me to learn different techniques and things so that I can move my body around and to be able to hopefully resume some degree of normalcy when I was discharged from the rehab center and able to come home. I wanted to have a normal life. I didn't want to have a life in a wheelchair, in a bed, on crutches, or with any prosthetic devices, any durable medical equipment. I wanted as much of a normal life as I could possibly have. So I made sure to take all the notes and to do everything they told me to do in speech therapy, in physical therapy, and in occupational therapies. And there were some other therapies along the way as well. So I did everything I could because I craved normalcy. I wanted to reclaim my quality of life as much as I possibly could. And that was the goal, right? Going home and returning to as much of my life as I could within reason, considering that my left side had been dramatically impacted by the stroke. So along the way, I started regaining feeling and movement in certain aspects, and to this day, I guess I would have about 85, maybe 95% back to where I was. So there's still some opportunity for some growth and development and some rehab to be able to get some feeling and some movement back in certain areas, fingers, toes, etc. I won't bore you with all the details except to say this. So while I was there, so you have the goal, you have the situation, I'm in rehab, I'm in a bed, and I'm getting rehab, I'm getting stronger, I'm getting feeling, things are progressing, the wheel is turning slowly. But one of the things I realized is I hit a wall very early because I couldn't see myself returning to normalcy. And here's why. Insert the limiting belief. All of my life now, at the time the stroke happened, I was 48 years old. At the time that I'm recounting this story to, I'm about 49. So I had just had a birthday, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm laying in the bed and I'm looking at the possibility, what's going to happen to me? When will I be discharged? How much longer is this going to take? All those things that are normal questions and concerns. But one of the things that I hit a wall on was I realized all of my life up until that point, I had never known a family member that had ever gone into a rehab facility and ever came out alive. Every one of my uncles, aunts, cousins, and everybody else that I had known that had gone into rehab facilities, they died in those rehab centers. They never got home. They never got a chance to go back to their families. They never got a chance to resume their living, their normal living. They never got a chance to have a life beyond the circumstances that put them in the rehab center. That was my limiting belief. I had to overcome the fact that all I've ever known was family members who died from rehab center experiences. So my limiting belief was understanding that there is a possibility in a life that could be had by me or anybody beyond my circumstances, because the whole time I'm going through rehab, each of the rehabs that I was in, the rehab therapists are telling me that life and normalcy is possible. So they're saying, hey, you can do this. You can go home and be able to walk. You can go home and not have to be in a wheelchair. You can live a life that's not requiring you to be bedridden. You don't have to walk with special devices. You don't have to be on crutches or braces or anything. You can. So they're telling me that the doctors are saying my health, the poor health conditions that existed, that put me in the rehab center and through the hospital process in general, the thing that almost killed me, my blood pressure, that I had gotten beyond those challenges, my health was improving. So everything in my world was pointing to me being able to get out of the rehab center. But I had this limiting belief. I had this thing in my head that said this is not possible. So from that moment forward, I realized that in order for me to really go home, I had to first jump the first hurdle. The first hurdle was understanding that it is possible for James W. Falcon to get out of the rehab center and to not die there. So I started telling myself, as a believer, as a Christian, I started reading my Bible. And every day I would say to myself, James, you're not going to die here. You're not going, this is not going to be all there is. You are going. So I had to overcome that for about 2 to 3 months to put my mindset in a place to understand that other people's limitations are not going to be my limitations. Does that make sense? That was my limiting belief. And once I got over that thought, once I got beyond that brick wall, I was able to fully, clearly see home. returning to home, returning to writing, returning to coaching, returning to all the things I loved and enjoyed. Now, I realized once I got home, that would have to be some changes and some modifications. I realized that I was not 100% of who I was, but I was fine with that because I realized there would be much more wood to chop at home, that my rehab wouldn't end with my discharge. So I was fully aware of those possibilities and that reality, and was fully, and just like him presently, able to bear the responsibility of an ongoing rehab process, however long that takes. So for me to go from 95% to 100, I'm still in the process of that journey. But here's the thing, that first limiting belief, and there were others, but that first limiting belief I had to plow through. I'm not going to die in a rehab center. This is not going to be the end of the story. This is a comma, not a period in my life. I had to overcome that. So whoever you are listening, I want to encourage you in your goal development, goal pursuit, and goal attainment processes. Realize that you may encounter limiting beliefs, things that you just can't at the moment seem to overcome, seem to go around, seem to hurdle. Understand that those things, I'm going to be honest with, those things are best handled by an experienced coach. And I'll tell you about the coaching opportunities that will be available to you as a member of this group in a upcoming podcast and an upcoming snippet. But for the purposes of this, to conclude this, limiting beliefs are very real in all of our lives. They happen to all of us. And we have to ask ourselves, why is this here? What's the source of this limiting? Is it credible? Just because something is perceived as being real does not necessarily make it real. My perception was that everybody that goes into a rehab center dies because 5, maybe 7 or 8 people that I had known had gone in and died. Now, that was a very real fact. Those were not imagined deaths. They were actual family members that I had to bid farewell to over the years because they died in the course of having their rehab done. Now, that represents a microcosm of the possibilities that exist for the population. So how many people in the world go into rehab centers and don't come out? So you have to ask yourselves these kinds of questions so you can shake the tree of the limitations so you get a very real, honest, viable answer, as opposed to what I told you the definition of limiting beliefs were in the beginning. Conclusions that we conveniently draw. Now, it works the other way. Sometimes we tell ourselves, oh, I can't get to a certain goal because I just seem to always fail. I always seem to drop the ball. Nothing good ever works out for me. My whole life is just filled with disappointments. People leave me. I'm never supported. Nobody believes in me. So those are very real limiting beliefs as well. And again, just like in my situation, you may have facts. You may have very real experiences. There may be points on your historical radar that points to why you've concluded these things. You may have had somebody that walked out on you. Maybe your parents didn't support you like you would. Maybe your spouse left you, or something is happening with you and your spouse presently where you don't feel the covering and the support that you feel like you deserve. Like, these things happen, but the idea is for you to realize the conclusion you've drawn can be overcome if you just take a moment and find a solution somewhere in the world that will discredit the limiting belief and open your mind and possibilities to a much wider picture and view of your circumstances, to see that there is a lane you can take. There is a road that you can travel on that you may not have known about. And I want to just take a moment to invite you, to encourage you, to empower you, for you, my listening friend, to understand that that road is a road that has your name on it. Find it, get on there, and push down that highway to your goal. Make sure you can connect the dots between today and that magical, wonderful vision you have of your future. Make sure that you understand how to get from A to B, and the goal setting, goal pursuit, goal attainment process is just that road. If you need help, reach out to me and I will be happy to guide you through that process as a coach. But again, I'll make the offer a little bit later on for coaching. But for now, I hope that helps you with your limiting belief situations. I've defined it, I've given you an example, and I've shared with you how to overcome it. Make sure limiting beliefs don't become the issue and the thing that prevents you from getting to your goals today or any day. Whatever you do, my listening and friend, get, be, and stay encouraged. Keep pushing, keep posting your progress on your goals. We'll talk again soon. Take care.